which she's allotted by the government, in order to, specifically, in order to reduce their deficit, their structural deficit. What's your opinion about the deficit spending in the United States right now, and how would you propose to deal with that?
Well, we had a $1.3 trillion deficit this year, a $1.6 trillion deficit last year. That relates directly to debt that's going to our children and to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren that they're going to ultimately have to pay off. We are facing today in this country a $13.6 trillion debt that has been created over the course of time. I blame every single person that's ever been in Congress, ever served in Congress, no matter whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever they may be. They have allowed that to happen. We as people have allowed them to do these types of things in terms of spending in this country. More importantly, we're facing some other serious issues that people are afraid to address because apparently it's not politically correct. We have today a $110 trillion amount of money that is owed to our citizens in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the interest on our debt today, assuming we don't increase it. The net worth of this nation from all assets owned by individuals, corporations, and small businesses is $75 trillion. From any business model that you want to study, we're broke. We are bankrupt as a nation. Unless we get a handle on our spending, and I don't mean exclude this area, exclude that area, we as a nation are going to have to make some sacrifices to get this budget under control. It's not only threatening us from a national security standpoint, but from a sovereignty standpoint as a nation. Because you cannot continue to owe money to foreign countries like we owe today and expect them not to demand payment at one point in time or another. Wars have been fought over this. This is why I consider it to be a national security issue. And if you look at the history of the past, every great nation that has tried to do what this country is doing today in terms of providing for the individual personal needs of the citizen no longer exists. That's what collapsed the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the Ottoman Empire, any of the others that are out there. When they began trying to take care of the basic needs of the citizens, that empire collapsed. We as a nation cannot afford to have that to happen. On a historical level, it has in the past, it will continue to happen in the future.
Well, let me follow up with that just briefly. Do you have any specific ideas as to how to severely reduce spending in order to accomplish that goal?
Sure I do. First of all, let's roll things back to about the 2005 level in terms of government spending, first of all. Let's start with that. Let's start with cutting spending in every single department by a minimum of 20% over the next 2 or 3 years. We're going to have to reduce spending in every department. Let's put a freeze on hiring on the federal level from every single aspect. Let's start looking at programs that are really and truly ineffective. I consider the Department of Education to be an absolute albatross around the nation's neck. I want to see our educational system put back in the hands of local controls. Why do we need a Department of Education to tell us here in the state of Florida how to run our school system when what we need in Florida in terms of education may not be the same thing they need in New York State or Michigan or California or Utah? Each and every state should be able to determine their own educational needs. Let's abolish that Department of Education. Let the states take care of their individual educational needs. That's one department I would like to see abolished. The Department of Energy is another one. What have they succeeded in doing? It's a $53 billion a year department that we're paying in terms of taxpayers' dollars that has not succeeded, but they've been an abject failure in their objective. We could eliminate that department for one. There are all kinds of ways that we can eliminate spending in this country if people will just take a stand and say we've got to do this for the good of our nation, not for our political futures. That's the problem in Washington today. Everybody up there is there to make a career out of it. I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be a career politician. I want to do what's right for this district, for the people that live here, and for the country that I live in. That means what? I've got to be a statesman in order to do it. Not worried about re-election. If I do what's right for this country and this people that live here, I'll get re-elected. But too many people are trying to survive a political future that really and truly has bankrupted this nation. That's the problem we have today in Washington.
We only have a few minutes left. I'm going to ask Joe and Rod if they have a real quick question each Go ahead and ask those, and then we'll let you wrap up.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I don't know if it justifies a quick answer, but let's talk about Social Security.
Okay.
Is privatization the answer to it, or do you have any other answers?
Well, so many people want to talk about Social Security and are afraid to talk about it in a lot of respects. As we get back into our social programs, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, we are facing $110 trillion worth of payout that is mandatory spending already. This is going to amount to about $400,000 per man, woman, and child here in this country in terms of what's already being saddled on their backs. We're going to have to do one of two things. We're either going to have to revamp Social Security totally in its entirety, or we're going to have to look at long-term ways of phasing it out. Am I going to cut Social Security for the seniors? Absolutely not. Will never happen. That's not the plan. The plan is to be able to allow people to invest in their own retirement future, if you will, beginning at a young age. Should it be mandatory? I see nothing in the Constitution that gives Congress the authority to make that mandatory. But unless we start looking at ways to phase out over a long-term period of time this social programs that we have in this country, we're going to be facing the same things that they're facing in Europe today with the riots and the burnings and the looting and everything else that's going on in Greece and France, Portugal, Spain. Each and every one of these countries are there because of very liberal social programs that have succeeded in bankrupting their nation. So yes, we need to start looking at ways to get out from underneath Social Security.
Agreed.
We only have about 2 minutes left, so...
I promise not to give the scientific question.
Okay,
I often
please.
When interviewing someone, they never give them a yes-no question. You said that all of us are responsible. Doesn't that include the citizen, the voter? Aren't we, in fact, been contributing all along this, and is there a way out of it?
There is a way out of it, and unfortunately it's a painful way out. It's never been easy for a nation the size of this country, or for that fact any nation, to be able to recover from the economic collapse that we're having. It's not going to get any better until we build the foundational things that it takes to get out from underneath this. And yes, it's going to take sacrifice on the part of every single person in this country, every man, woman, and child. But I think we'll end up with a better nation because of it, a stronger nation because of it, a more economically viable nation because of it. These are the things that I think we've got to do as a country. We've done it before in the past, particularly in the Second World War. We pulled together as a country. We came out of an economic depression because of that war. These are the kinds of things that we're going to have to realize that we can do this without fighting a war in order to do it.
Take ownership of our country.
Take ownership of our nation, yes.
All right, now if you have a 1-minute elevator speech to deliver real quick, we'll be happy to hear it.
Well, here in the United States of America, we are faced with tremendous amounts of problems. I believe that we can solve these problems if we will pull together as a nation. It takes leadership. It takes the type of leadership that we haven't seen in this country for quite a number of years. The economic problems here in this 3rd Congressional District are very severe. They're very daunting. They're very tough challenges to take on. I bring a leadership quality because I've been a job creator. I've been the person that signed the front of paychecks, not the backs. I know how to start a small business and live the American dream because I've started one with nothing but a toolbox and a belief in myself. This district problems can be solved. I ask for your vote. I hope you will consider that when you go to the ballot box this election day. I believe I can bring some real leadership to the district that will turn this country around and make our nation stronger because of it.
All right, thank you, Mike Yost. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Joe. We are done. We are out of here from the Concerned Taxpayers of Duval County. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you next month.